I Never Left the House Part 1. I never left the house. My name is Lucija, and I have no idea of what my life even means. I think I'm somewhere around 18 years old. From what I saw on the internet, it seems to match me, but no one ever told me my age or my birthday. Apparently, most people celebrate their birthday by gathering people together and eating. At least that's what I understood. I'm still figuring things out. I should probably start from the beginning. I'm losing myself here. As far as I remember, I always lived here in the house, and I never left it. The grown-ups around us always told us that there was nothing to see outside of it, and that it was for our own safety that we were kept here. And honestly, until these last few weeks, I never questioned it. I have one room to sleep, one room to wash myself, one room to eat, one room with computers, and one room where I went when they had to check on us. I shared all these rooms with Peter. Peter is the only person I've known for my whole life. The grown-ups that take care of us, they come and go. I think I've never known one that stayed more than 6 months maybe, apart from Tyler and Debbie, but Peter, I think he's around my age again, I'm not sure. We always got along. Peter is nice, he's my friend, and we know everything about each other. I really like him. All of our days were always the same. We woke up to the sound of an alarm and got dressed. After that, we went to the checking room, and grown-ups were looking at all sort of things on us. They were inspecting our skin, the inside of our mouths, listening to our heartbeats, and many more things. It always ended with an injection. They never told us what was in these shots that we always got, just that it was necessary. After the check, it was time to eat. The food was good, but it's all I ever had, so I can't really tell if it's that great. When we finished eating, it was time for the longest part of the day. We got out in the yard and waited. The yard had a bench, a climbing wall, a space to play basketball and soccer, and that was pretty much it. There was just one more thing. The whole yard was surrounded by buildings, except for one side where there was a high fence. On the other side of it was a road and other buildings, and all day long, people would be there watching us. Some were talking, others writing or taking pictures. They never stayed longer than 15 minutes, and when someone left, someone else was taking his place. Our instructions were the same since we were little. Ignore them. You might think it's hard to do, but when you're used to it, it's actually not that hard. Peter and I spent hours trying to reach the top of the climbing wall, playing soccer. He's better than me, and basketball, I'm better than him, talking. It was boring sometimes, but we found ways to make it entertaining. After something like 6 hours in the yard, we were allowed back inside, in the room with computers and books and CDs. It was our favorite moment of the day. We listened to music, played games on the computers. We had internet, but they said it was all fake, only made for entertainment in the past. Basically, they explained that what was on the internet was all from a long time ago, and that nothing we saw there still existed. It didn't really matter anyway. We were happy to play games and watch videos. However, we were strictly forbidden to interact in any way. We especially liked videos with animals. It was fun. After a few hours in that room, we had learning time, where we watched videos that were teaching us different things, like talking properly, counting to 100, things like that. Then it was time to eat again. Then another check, another injection, after which we had to wash ourselves before going to sleep. So, as you can see, our lives weren't exactly thrilling. I can count with my fingers every time something was just a little different. I remember a few years ago, instead of grown-ups, there was a group of kids on the other side of the fence. They stayed for a few hours, and we were told that we were allowed to talk with them. Peter and I were pretty excited, so we went closer from the fence than usual and waited. We didn't exactly know how to engage in a conversation, so we just kind of sat there, waiting. Most of the kids were laughing. I think they were mocking us from what I understood, but a few of them actually talked with us. They asked us various things, like our favorite song, what we like to eat, our daily lives. We asked them the same kind of questions, to which they answered for the most parts. They apparently couldn't talk about their lives. It's one of my favorite memories ever. Since these last 2 years, we also have Tyler and Debbie. They're the only grown-ups that we know the name of. They bring us our food, take us from one room to another, ask us if we need anything, and once a week, they come in the yard with us for a few hours. They play soccer and basketball with us. It's a lot of fun. They're the first grown-ups that we've really known ever, and with who we have actual conversations. A few years ago, I think 3, there was also an incident. It had been a while that I was looking at Peter a bit differently, and he kinda was too. When we were showering, we were looking at each other's bodies a lot, and we didn't really know why. I personally simply couldn't help it. It felt weird. Once, we talked about it in the yard. We both felt like we wanted to touch the other one for some reason, and to be very close from each other, especially in the shower. He didn't understand why either. That same day, when we went in the shower, we started to get closer from each other, and eventually we were touching each other. It felt weirdly nice. We were stopped pretty fast by grown-ups and put in separate rooms. We waited for maybe an hour before they brought us together in our room. A woman sat in front of us and started to talk to us. She explained that what we were feeling wasn't wrong, and that it was normal, but that they couldn't let us do these kinds of things with each other. Since then, we didn't shower at the same time, but another thing was also added to our daily routines. Before going in the shower, we were both took in a separate room where we were given pictures. He had naked women and I had naked men. We were given an hour. At first, I didn't really know what to do, but with time, I started to have my habits that I won't explain here. Another time when things weren't like usual was the time when nobody came on the other side of the fence. Of course, it wasn't the first time it happened, but the other time was because it was raining a lot or snowing, but that one time, there was nothing that explained it. And also, we weren't told that there wouldn't be anyone. The grown-ups acted like it was a normal day. So that's always been my life until these last few days. Things started to get different 6 days ago. It was a morning like any other. We got dressed and went in the checking room. They checked everything they always checked, but when came the moment to get our injection, we got 2 shots. It was the first time they ever gave us more than one. We asked why it changed, but they only answered that it was like that now. After that, we went to the room where we ate. Tyler and Debbie looked way more anxious and stressed than usual, and they looked tired too. We noticed it immediately but didn't ask anything. The rest of the day went as usual, but there were way less people on the other side of the fence. The next day went exactly the same way, and the one after that too. 3 days ago, there was even less people on the other side of the fence. We also started to hear screams. They sounded like screams of pain or screams of rage sometimes. We had no idea who was screaming like that, but it was seriously scaring us. 2 days ago, there was almost no one left on the other side of the fence. I think we got something like 10 people for the entire day. The screams continued and got more intense and louder. Yesterday, things went the same way they did the day before. We got 2 shots, we ate, Tyler and Debbie looked exhausted like never before, and we went in the yard. That was the day when Tyler and Debbie came with us. The screams were louder than ever. As we were sitting in the yard, we dared to ask them what they were, but they answered that they didn't know what we were talking about. We didn't insist, but they were clearly lying as they reacted to each scream like us. They didn't have the strength to play anything, so we just waited. Nobody came to see us all day. Tyler and Debbie spent most of the time talking together until just before the end. It was almost time to get back in when they asked us to come closer to them. They told us that we couldn't tell anyone about anything they were going to tell us. They told us that we couldn't trust anyone in here except them, and that things were slowly starting to go sideways, putting us in danger. They said that they couldn't explain too much, as no one could know that we knew anything. They told us that something very bad might happen that night, and that we had to protect ourselves. They discreetly handed us 2 pills. They explained that if we were too scared that night, we had to eat these immediately, and that it would save us. On that, the door to get inside opened, and we had to go back. Tyler and Debbie left, and we were told that today, we wouldn't get time in the computer room, or alone time. They gave us our injections, and we had to go to sleep just after. It was very rushed, and after what Tyler and Debbie told us, we were very anxious when the lights turned off. We really wanted to sleep close from each other, but it was forbidden since what happened 3 years ago. We talked a bit, but none of us really knew what to do of the things we were told earlier. We couldn't find some sleep, so we just stayed awake for a few hours. Eventually, we started to hear screams. It was close. They were screams of pain, and they were getting closer and closer from our room. None of us said anything. We were petrified. The door was locked, and we had no idea of what was going on. The screams were now clearly coming from the hall just outside of our room. They were people running, others screaming for help, and we could also hear screams of anger. Whatever was happening behind the door, we were praying that it would stay there. After some time, the screams slowly stopped before it went silent. It was suddenly completely silent. I stayed like that for almost 2 minutes, during which Peter and I were trying to make the less noise as possible. Without any warning, something started to hit our door. It was punching it, smashing it, screaming. The door was going to break at any moment. We couldn't hide our fear and started to scream for help. Both of us were crying. It was a matter of seconds before it broke, and Peter yelled at me to take my pill. I took it out of my pocket, looked at him, and we both swallowed it. My last memory is the screams getting louder, and then it's the blackout. I woke up in my room today. I was devastated to find that Peter had disappeared. The door was broken, and I had access to the hallway. I slowly got out of my bed and walked carefully towards it. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I reached the hall. The whole place was covered in blood everywhere. I never saw that much of blood. It was on the wall, on the floor. I was a bit shocked, but I soon realized that there was absolutely no bodies. I thought it was weird. I yelled for help, hoping that Peter, Tyler, or Debbie would answer, but I had no answer. I walked towards the other rooms. There was still power, but all the rooms that I had access to were empty. There was absolutely nobody. There were other stains of blood all around the place, but not as much as in the hallway. I took the time to eat something fast as the door to the kitchen was opened. I grabbed some bread and stuffed it in my mouth before exploring more. The only places that I had access to were the one that I was using in my daily life, and the kitchen and some offices in the hallway that were usually locked. I had access to the yard too. I wandered more when I saw something moving behind the climbing wall. I approached slowly and found a girl. She was probably 9 years old. She was wearing the same thing I was, and she looked terrified. She was dirty and way too skinny. I tried to reassure her and to know her name, but soon found out that she wasn't talking. I don't know if she can't talk or if she just doesn't want to, but she didn't say anything. My first instinct was to bring her some food. She ate a whole bread and some apples. I tried to communicate, to ask her who she was, what happened last night, but had no answers. At least, after I made her eat and brought her back inside, she didn't seem to be scared of me anymore. I tried to look everywhere for more people, but didn't find anything. I eventually decided to tell my story here. I don't know if what they told us about the internet being something from the past is true, but I guess I'll find out by posting here if someone answers. I have no idea what to do now, so if someone reads this, I'm open to any form of advice. Thank you.